Hi. How's it going, everyone? Can you see us and hear us?
Hold on. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. It's our first time using StreamYard.
Speakers. Hold on. Say something. There, I can hear you now.
You can hear me now?
Is this a Twitter space? Is this streaming to a Twitter space?
It's streaming to our Twitter, I'm pretty sure. I don't think it's
Sick.
streaming as a space, but like to our Twitter feed, I think. I'm gonna check.
So just anyone can stop by?
That's the idea, if it's working correctly.
Oh yeah, for sure.
There it goes.
I see it.
Hi, everyone. Got quite the turnout already.
Where the hell are you seeing this? I see 0 people.
What? In the top left corner, it says the number of live viewers. And then there's the comments section, which is the chat for everyone. No?
Comments. Oh, I see now. Sick. I was just posting in the private chat with myself.
now you found the comments. You found where the party's at.
Yeah, I did. What up, everybody? Juicy Julio. Juicy Julio's in town. Cool. Well, we could probably get started since it's 12:02, unless you wanted to give a couple minutes for people to roll in.
Nope. I think we can get started with at least the basics and just introductions. So let me share my screen here. And then, yeah, just always feel free to ask questions in the comments as we kind of go along. I'll do my best to slideshow and also try to see the comments. All right.
Yeah, this is being recorded, right? Or I don't know.
This is being recorded. Yep. We'll be posting them on our YouTube channel as well.
Cool.
Yeah, so today we'll be talking about multi-creation tokens, which is also known as ERC-7160, which is a new token standard developed back in November, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So about us, if you're not familiar with Transient Labs, we're a creator platform and tooling toolkit. Essentially, I like to think of Transient Labs as we provide artists and creators different Legos to build their creative projects to life using the blockchain. Ben, feel free to jump in at any point. You know, we have our team. So Ben here is our co-founder and also dynamic art engineer. And then,
I need to update that PFP.
Yeah, I just realized that as well. And my name is Daniel. I run marketing and artist relations here at Transient Labs. And I believe Merv is a viewer here as well. So quickly about the lab, I think most of you are lab users. If you're not, please feel free to comment or DM us and we'll get you onboarded. But, you know, we have a wide range of capabilities, including, you know, you can create your own custom smart contracts, create customizable mint pages. All of our contracts come with a feature called story inscriptions, which essentially you can add text and records to digital artworks. So like proof of exhibition or a legal license directly to your token. And then of course, Trace, which we're rolling out the self-service store for next week, which are digital certificates of authenticity for physicals. So it's a bit different than a digital twin. And actually our next webinar in the beginning of August will be all about Trace and how you can use that for your physical art. So cool. Multi-creation editions or tokens. What is it? So ERC-7160 was a smart contract developed by Marco Peyfuss, one of the Transient co-founders, and 0xG, as they go by on Twitter, which allowed for multi-metadata functionality. And so what that means is when you mint an NFT on your 7160 contract, it looks like a regular one of one. However, it contains more artwork in it that you as a collector can choose to display. So you as an artist can put in a JPEG, MP4, and PNG all into the same token. So each token can be mixed media, and then the collector can go in and see these different versions of the artwork, whether it's a JPEG or MP4, and choose to display their preferred artwork. So a really easy use case to imagine what this means is like you can have a 7160 token, or multi-creation token, with 3 different aspect ratios of the same artwork. So now the collector automatically has all the different artwork file sizes to fit whichever display they own. And how's the background on that?
I think it's good. It'll make more sense when we get into it. So I wouldn't get too technical and dry.
It's a lot of text here, so I'm probably not going to really go into this in depth. But the first kind of key point about 7160 is, typically with a 1 of 1, if you ever replace the metadata, you're replacing it. Or if you have a reveal, the collector loses out on that like placeholder artwork of a piece. With 7160, you can't remove anything from the token's gallery or the token's history. So even though, let's say there was an error in one of the pieces and you upload a new version, the collector can always, they see the history. They can see the revision history that's happened throughout the evolution of the piece. The other really cool thing is like with 7160, you can basically come up with new ways to reward and engage with your collectors. So instead of airdropping new tokens or flooding a collector's wallets with new content, you can actually add it to their existing tokens and continue the narrative or story of a collection. And then, this goes outside of just digital art. So like, as a musician, you can kind of use this to create an album. Writers, you can publish different chapters or sections or pages. For example, if you have a book, you can make each page its own unique NFT within an artwork and also publish like a PDF version of the book. So you can have full book or just a page in your token. And then similarly to the second point I made, because of 7160, you can continue to add new artworks or new versions. And you can really think about how you can engage your collectors with that. And so we have a few examples we'll be getting into, such as Carborn and Shlom's Moonbeams. All right, so the first things first is vocabulary. So when you deploy your contract in the lab, your 7160 contract, you'll get met with this pop-up right here on your right, which gives you a quick rundown on how 7160 works. And so to start with, you have the origin token, which is the actual token or NFT that's being minted and that is in the collector's wallet. Within your origin token, you can add as many artwork creations as you'd like. So these would be the additional artworks or file types or aspect ratios to the same origin token. So you have an origin token, which is the actual NFT that's in the wallet. And then within that origin token, you have what we call artwork creations, which you, instead of minting them, you're adding them on chain is the language there. All right. Ben, you want to take Perils of Sase away? Or maybe.
Yeah, let me see what's after Perils of Sase. I think let's actually do the demo now and then come back to the examples that people have done.
Works for me.
That way people will get a better idea of, because it can feel like a lot when you're just listening to text, and reading text. So I'm a visual learner. So we're gonna jump in here. Let me just share my screen. Yes. Doesn't let me choose which screen. There it is. Okay, cool. We'll share screen 2. Are we on the right one?
I need to add it to stage.
Okay.
Does that mean my screen?
Got it?
Okay. Yep.
We're good. All right, cool. So this is all on testnet. That's why you'll see a bunch of stuff that says test and just kind of nonsensical contracts I've deployed. But this is the lab. If you're a new user, this will be essentially empty and you'll just see this create new. But I've created a lot of contracts over the year that this has been live, just testing various things out. But what we're going to do, like let's say we're interested in 7160. And to know if you are interested in 7160, the first question to ask yourself is, are you looking to mint a 721 with extra functionality and kind of future proofing game-changing innovations. So if you're looking for like a 721 collection where you want to do like a one of X type collection and not just like an 1155 edition, that's when you would go for a 7160. So we're gonna go to create contract. I didn't really prepare for naming this anything. What should we call it, Daniel? 7160. It's gonna call it webinar.
How creative.
We'll call it 7160W is the ticker. So you'll choose your contract type here, and you'll find it right here amongst the others that we have. 7160. Down here, there is an advanced section if you want to alter things like royalty, payout address, which defaults to your wallet, block list, inscriptions you can toggle on or off, and you can add on-chain ASCII art. But we're going to keep that as default, as most people do, and deploy this contract. So let me get this guy going. If this was on Base, it'd be a lot quicker, but we're on Sepolia ETH, so block times are about 12 seconds, so it takes a little bit. But while we wait for this deploy, can't think of anything else to say. Come on, blockchain.
Yeah, I think visuals are very helpful, as this is a new thing in the space. I think that many people aren't familiar with, especially if you haven't interacted with the token before.
Yeah. So as you can see, we have our confetti. We have our contract deployed. This modal will pop up, which Daniel already had up on the presentation. It just kind of gives you an overview on how these work. You have your origin token, or the initial thing that you mint the token with, and then you can add as many creations as you want into that same token. So it's kind of like minting a folder of artwork versus a single artwork. And then the future owners of that token have full accessibility to anything in that token, and they can switch their metadata, and we'll talk about that. So we're going to hit let's create, and that takes us straight to create the first token. And if you didn't want to do that for some reason, you could always go back, and you'll see it made a draft for me. I could even delete the draft, but this is our 7160 webinar contract. No tokens in here, so of course I'm going to create a token. We'll call this, I already have some photos ready. So for those photographers in the audience, you'll probably recognize this spot, but it's Island in the Sky in Utah. We'll call this one Green River aspect ratio. I'm going to use aspect ratios as a cool use case on why you would add multiple pieces to a same token. So we'll start with 4:6 aspect ratio. Let me upload the image here. Here we go, 4:6. We're all ready to go. We'll wait for that to upload here. You get a nice little status. It tells you what percentage it is on being uploaded. While you wait for that, though, you can always open advanced here and add attributes like aspect ratio. 4:6. This is photography. Just add a tag there for fun. Token recipient automatically defaults to your wallet address. You can always change this if you want to mint it straight to another wallet or to a collector's wallet. So we can see here, it's uploaded, it's done. So I'm going to come down here and preview the token. Everything looks good. I've got my description, my attribute, and my tag that I added. So I'm going to go ahead and mint this token. So what we're doing here is we're minting the origin token for 7160. Let's go ahead and do this. Hopefully it's a little quicker this time.
And so this process is just like minting a normal, one-of-one NFT.
Same thing as minting a 721. Yeah. Fun fact though, like on a contract level, until you add an additional creation, this contract exactly operates on the 721 standard. So it's fully compatible across all marketplaces. So now that I've minted that origin token, we've unlocked creations here. So you can see it gives a quick brief on what creations are. They're just additional metadata, just like you would update metadata on a manifold token. That's essentially what creations are doing, but instead of erasing and replacing, you're actually just adding to the token, and you get to keep all previous metadata. So it's pretty cool. So we're gonna continue here. My internet likes to be a little bit slow for caching and pulling in images when I'm screen sharing. So be patient. That's why it's, buffering. But essentially up here, this is the grid of future artworks inside this token. Right now you can see we just have one, and that's going to be on the top right. Once this finally loads in, it'll populate this grid up here. What a time for my internet speeds to be super slow. So I've got my origin token, and I want to add, let's say, a vertical version in case someone has a screen like this over here on my wall, which is a token frame and is, it's oriented vertically. So I want to add a vertical in here for collectors that might want to switch that metadata to be a vertical orientation. So I can either hit the copy button here. There's other ways to do it. I could hit the plus button down here, or I could have also hit the plus button up here, and that adds an additional draft creation. So now I'm going to remove copy of, we'll call this island in the sky. It's still the same thing, but now it's an aspect ratio of, I think it was 4:5. The other one was technically a 6:4, but I just got it backwards. It's okay. So this will be the 4:5. This is all brand new metadata, by the way. Every time you add a creation, think of it as like a brand new 721, but on the same token. So you can change title, you can change the media, so the actual image, which I'm going to do right here. You can change the description. They can be a completely different set of attributes. So the sky's the limit as far as like what you want to do with these tokens. So I've got the 4:5 piece updated here. And so I'm going to got everything else here. Cool. All right. So I'm going to hit this check mark button right here and then preview my new creations. I can do multiple at the same time, but should I, Daniel? Should I do multiple? This is what it looked like if you just did one. And then I could hit add on chain.
I would do it.
However, I guess I could do multiple at the same time. That would be kind of cool. So let me collapse advanced here. And then I'm going to hit plus button again. Actually, let's trash that. I'm going to copy this one so I don't have to type in everything. So we're going to do island in the sky again, but this one is the animated version. So let's just say like down the road, and this can be at any time scale. So you could add creations to your collector's tokens like a year or 2 years down the road. It doesn't have to be all upfront. You could just mint it as one token, so it acts like a 721. And you may or may not ever add another creation, and that's totally cool. But using a 7160 gives you that future proofing where you always have that option. Let's just put it that way. So now I'm going to do, this is a Green River scene that has been animated using, how do you spell parallax? I'm just going to guess here. Parallax techniques. All right. So let's see here. I'm going to actually change this. This is going to be an MP4. This kind of demonstrates mixed media capabilities. So this is I used this photograph and I created a parallaxed animation artwork, collabed with a musician who made a live track. And so I want to add this to the creator's token as like a cool version of the initial piece that they bought. So I'm going to give that a second. Of course, you need a thumbnail with anything that is animated, like a video or a GLB or an HTML dynamic artwork. So it'll prompt you to add the thumbnail here. And that's what I'm doing right now. It should have saved a really small thumbnail size, but that's okay. All right, cool. So you can see here, I got that video, that cool animation. So I'm going to go to preview. Oh, actually, let's look at our advanced settings here. Aspect ratio is now a 6:4, but I'm going to call it 4:6 just to stay with the error that I made earlier. And this is now a video as a tag, just for example. Let's see here. Oh, I got to go back. check all the pieces I want to add. So I want to add the animated and I want to add the island in the sky. So you multi-select these pieces, preview create creations, and it's going to show the two creations I'm about to add to this token. If I want to order them differently, so maybe I want the animated piece to come second, I can just use these order buttons, but I'm going to go 6x4, 4x5, and then the animated as the last piece in the token. So once I'm ready and they look good to me, I'm going to hit add on chain and sign the transaction. So now this single token becomes a 3 artwork token. And then I'll show you what the creator or the collector experiences on the other side. Once this goes through.
Yeah, I think the collector point of view will really bring this all together.
Yeah, definitely. All right, cool. So I'm going to go to Launchpad here and open this token.
Launchpad is also now transient.xyz, so it's an easy way to find it. And it's basically where you can go to find tokens, discover
test
mint new work, add story inscriptions. It's basically where you actually interact with all your Transient Labs NFTs.
Yeah, this is our evolving marketplace. It's going to eventually become a full-fledged marketplace, primary, secondary. It already has primary with additions, but auctions, this is where you can use and interact with story inscriptions, 7160s, doppelgangers, dynamic art engines, like all kinds of stuff that we're going to have in the future, the very near future. So I'm on the token page for this that I just minted. As you can see, it's going to default to the origin token, which is this original one of one. And it's that first piece that I put up. So I'm the collector. Let's say I bought it. I've got that origin token here. But if I go down here, I can see like, oh, I've got 3 creations inside my token. So we've got the origin, we've got the 4x5, and then the animated version. So if I click on any one of these, it's going to open up that creation in its own little metadata viewer. And so I can close that and I can check out all these creations. So here's the video, for example. And once again, it might take a little bit to actually load the video because I'm pushing my bandwidth, but yeah, it'll play over here in a video player. And same goes with if I add 20 other creations to this token, you're going to see them all grid out underneath here. And I'll show you an example of a token that has a lot. But let's say I've got a vertical display next to me. So I'm going to actually pin this creation. And by pinning it, we're basically updating the metadata. But that's for the first time ever, that's in the collector's hand, because they now have the full control over what their token looks like based on the creations inside that token. So I'm going to actually change my token to this vertical orientation. And so what this is doing is updating the metadata to index number 1 since it starts at 0. So this is the second piece in the metadata folder inside the token, which is called an array, actually, when you have a list of strings. So we have an array of metadata is what we would call it in the developer world. So yeah,
I call it a folder in my world.
Yeah, it's a folder. It's a folder, and it's the second artwork in that folder. So cool. Just like that, our page picks up that the metadata has been updated, and it immediately pulls it in. And so now if I come down here to creations, we can see this pin icon. I have now pinned that second creation. I can always go back to the first, or I can always go forward to the video. I can do this as many times as I want as the collector. And so this gives you full control over what your token embodies based on what the creator has added into the token. So that's like what a collector would see. And let's say I did an entire collection of one of one of X as a creator. They all started with just a single origin token. So let's just say it's 50 tokens, all different, one of X. With 7160s, you can reward collectors in a way that's never been possible before by doing these quasi airdrops, by adding creation to the existing token IDs. That way you're not actually increasing your supply. So it's a way to keep collectors engaged, to add new versions or airdrops. It can be something completely different. It doesn't have to be a derivative of this image. Like I could quite literally add a brand new piece altogether and just call it I don't know, Iceland or whatever. And I could upload a piece that has nothing to do with the others. Maybe this is just a cool bonus gift or something. Like I want to upload this signed version of the Aurora Borealis that I took in Iceland. So yeah, it doesn't have to be just a version of the origin token. And since this is an image, you'll see that thumbnail disappeared. And now we've got this. So I could quite literally add that on chain. And now that new token that new creation will show up as a fourth creation inside this token.
So Ben, each addition right now, each creation that you're adding to the origin token, there is a small gas fee associated with that for.
Yeah, these are all on-chain transactions. Anything that's on-chain, and we want everything on-chain, right? Because it's why we're here. It's permanent and decentralized. But yeah, any on-chain transaction is going to cost or incur a little bit of gas. So you'll notice every time I'm adding a piece of metadata to the token, there's a little gas fee. It's way cheaper on Base, of course, or on any L2. And I'm talking like less than a penny. And then the same goes for, and just really quick, you'll see here, there's now 4 creations in here. The one that I've pinned on, and then the other 2 original added ones. And then we've got this 4th creation that I just added, and the thumbnail is taking forever to pull in. There you go. So I could click this and I could pin this creation just like I did before, but we won't do that since we've done that before. But I could keep switching it. But yeah, if I did pin this, I guess, just like what Daniel said, it's an on-chain transaction. You're actually changing and updating the metadata on this token. It's ultra cheap, but it is a small transaction. So might as well sign it while we're here. So yeah, there are a ton of use cases for stuff like this. What I just showed was, storing multiple aspect ratios inside a token so that no matter what display your future collectors have, their token can morph into what's optimal for that display. You could add derivatives or versions to that piece. Like I added the animated. You can use it as like a little airdrop or a reward system to keep engaged with your collectors and add additional artworks like I just did here. What else have we seen people? We can go over some of the use cases, but another cool one that I'm working on with an artist right now is their origin token is stored on IPFS. Then they added a creation that's stored on Arweave. Then they added a creation that's stored on Google Drive and then iCloud. And so essentially they're using 7160 to store one version of the artwork on every possible cloud storage system so that the token's longevity is like greatly superior to just a standard 721. So if IPFS ever went down, there's an Arweave version in there. If Arweave ever went down, there's an IPFS version in there. And if any future decentralized storage solution pops up, you can add that creation to the token as a backup. So there's really cool. That was a really cool use case that I noticed someone bring up for this type of token. Did I miss anything? I've just been going on and on. So
no, I think this was really good. I would love to. We got a couple questions while you were talking, but I'd love if anyone has any questions specifically
Please don't be afraid to ask. It's as there's a learning curve to pushing the boundaries and kind of using, I guess, new innovations. But we were all here when we were trying to learn what 716 or 721s versus 1155s were. So it's very similar. But once you wrap your head around it, like, this is a 721, but it has depth and I can add as many pieces to it as I want, and the collector can jump around and choose whatever metadata they want. So it's really as simple as that. Minting a folder versus minting a file. And with that comes a lot of brand new use cases and ways to kind of like blow the doors off the experience for your collectors and build a relationship with collectors in a deeper way. All right.
All right. Should I jump in?
Sure. Can you kick me off screen sharing?
Yeah, let me. Oh, you kicked yourself off.
Okay. You want to share your? I can run through the examples too if you want to pull them up.
Yeah, that's probably. I don't know what I'm doing. Slideshow. All right. This is the first example we have pulled up and prepared, and we have some visuals associated with each one as well.
I don't see it yet.
Oh, can you add me to? Was I not sharing last time either?
No, you were.
Oh, okay.
I can also share. I have the presentation pulled up.
Share screen.
You want me to walk through these?
Yes.
I'm happy to.
Let's do it.
All right. So Perales-Assese with Seneca this was the first, right? This was the first 7160 implementation.
Yep.
Before it was in the lab. So this was like custom deployed. But essentially what she wanted to do was use an evolving states of each token to reward those who held for a long period of time. So this is a collection of remind me 2,600 and something odd one-of-one tokens. All of them are unique. They were built using a generative script that we wrote, and they all started with the far right version, which was called Blossom 1. Now, if you held Blossom 1 for 2 weeks, your token would get updated to Blossom 2. And then if you held it for 6 more weeks, it would get updated to Blossom 3. And so she's telling this like evolving narrative in each token by updating the metadata. But every single token still contains all 3 blossoms. So for some reason, if you really prefer Blossom 1 or 2 versus 3, which is like the full flowerets and everything, the fully bloomed borders, you can always switch back. That's the main difference between 7160 and just a standard metadata update, erase and replace. And the reason why we don't easily or like obviously support erase and replace metadata updates is we're really trying to live up to the idea of digital ownership. And if you're a collector that owns a digital asset, you should have full control over what the metadata looks like. So the creator should be able to add new metadata or propose new updates, but you as the collector ultimately get to decide what metadata your token takes form of. So that's kind of why we went down the ERC-7160 route and something else called Synergy, which is for 721s, but we'll save that for a different time. It's just a metadata update proposal scheme.
Yep.
So that's, yep, go ahead. Okay.
Right.
And then not too long after we launched, we helped, we powered Roger Dickerman and his visions of 24 hours of art. And so this was a really cool use case of 7160 that deviated quite a bit from Perales-Assese. So in this case, the origin token was used as a placeholder. It all started with this black, I guess you would call it black matte, kind of monochromatic blank canvas. Every single token had that. Some of them still do. And then every day of the year, there would be an artwork, a generative artwork created based on the reports that Roger Dickerman's putting out. And there are 366 tokens because it's a leap year. And so every single day of the year, one of those tokens would evolve, or a new creation would be added to the 7160 token for that day that was that generative output based on his report. So every single day they're adding one creation to one of the 7160 tokens in that collection, and you'll see it evolve on OpenSea. So if you check back every few days, more and more tokens have been updated to that generative, one-of-one version. But like we've harped on a couple times here, that original blank canvas is still in the token. So you could always switch it back. you have full revision history. So that this is a pretty cool use case on 7160.
Yeah, and
as well.
I don't know, Cosmo, for example, another like just cool thing that Roger did here for 24 Hours of Art is on top of Cosmo receiving kind of his art, he also got like a custom art version for his token. So adding like a third state on top of the placeholder, his actual day, and then like a customized day version, which is very cool to see.
It is cool. I'm going to answer, is it a Regium? A Regium? One of those. Maybe not, maybe none of those pronunciations, but their question is really cool question. It actually foreshadows something that we have coming up, like a big activation, a collaborative contract use case for this tech. So yeah, you can, short answer, multiple artists could come together. Each one could add an artwork into the token. And then you can record that collaboration on chain using the story inscriptions on that token. So like Daniel could deploy the contract, because you can only have one user deploy the contract. That's just the limit of the blockchain. So someone has to deploy the contract. Let's say Daniel deploys it. He makes the origin token because he's kind of like the curator for this collaboration. So it's his artwork. And then he invites me. So I add my version or my take on his origin or my own completely different artwork. I give that to him. He adds that into the token, but I can go into the story inscription and using my wallet address, confirm that I am the artist for creation number 2. And so there's ways to do that on chain. Since Daniel owns the contract, actually, it's interesting you bring it up. We're kind of riffing live here. If Daniel adds me as an admin to the contract, which is totally something, it's a feature that we have in all Transient Labs creator contracts. You can go into settings and you can add a nearly infinite amount of addresses to be admins on your contract with you. So I think Daniel could add me as an admin, and I can actually
what is
add the
what is an
creation.
admin? Like what is adding just a contract mean?
It gives wallets nearly the same privileges as the creator or deployer of the contract. So if I'm not mistaken, if you add me as the admin, I could be the one that adds the creation to the token, which would then show on chain my wallet address as the origin. But our front end might still just pick it up as under Daniel's name since you deployed the contract. So same with OpenSea, they just pull in whoever is the owner of the contract. But anyways, even if Daniel's a curator and he deployed the contract, I can add my creations and I can inscribe a story to that token, which I should have screen shared. I should have showed that a little bit, but I can inscribe a story that says, I created, I contributed artwork number 2. And there's on-chain proof tied to that token forever that I'm the collaborator. And then you can do that with 100 more artists on the same token.
So we actually just did this with the Rio Artist Residency on 7160, where there were 19 artists. Each gave their own artworks. There were different media types, right? So there were GIFs, MP4s, JPEGs. Each one's by a different artist. They have their own traits. They have their own description. They have their own title. And as a collector, I can now own this token where I have 19 artworks from 19 artists, and I can choose to display my favorite on Monday. And then, a month later, if I feel like I'm feeling like an F-dot mood, I can go put on my F-dot piece on that piece or on that origin token.
Yeah, or if one of those 19 artists explodes into the stratosphere and becomes the next Beeple, you can now update your token to show that artist. And maybe doing so, even though they're always in the token, it might add extra value to that token if you're pinned to that creation. So there's all kinds of cool. Yeah.
It's a very fun
one. You go to the next one here. So Moonbeams was similar to 24 Hours of Art in that every token launched with the origin token was placeholder metadata. So it was all the same across the entire collection. There's 39,000 pieces in this contract. And what the mint was, if you guys remember, if you participated in this or watched the mint, every minute a new frame of the eclipse would elapse over 24 hours. And you had to mint within that 1 minute to get that frame. And then the next minute would load the next frame. So there could be multiple owners of the same frame, but every minute that frame would change. And then we use that on-chain data in the mint timestamp to push to all 39,000 tokens whatever frame they minted as the second creation to their 7160 token. And then later on, so now each token has two creations, got the original and then the frame they minted. Then later on, the creators of this, so Colborn and Shlomes, ran a competition or like a community challenge and said, here's a list of 10 commands. Go inscribe a story on your token, because collectors can inscribe stories on the tokens they own too, creators and collectors. Go inscribe a token inscription using any combination of these commands, and based on what you inscribe, we'll make a custom piece for the frames that you own and add that to your 7160 token. So I think they had like over 200 at least.
They had over 200, and like one of the commands, just to visualize this, it was like black and white. So BNW. If as a collector I put in BNW, Cardboard and Shlomes would go in, take my media file, make it black and white, and give me a new version of that to my tokens array.
Yep. So now those who participate in that challenge have 3 creations in their token. They have the original, they have the frame they minted, and then they have this custom version that they helped create. Anyone who didn't participate, their tokens have 2 creations. So even within the same 7160 contract, each token can have a different amount of creations added to it, because each token is its own folder. So you don't have to add something to all tokens. If you have a collection of 10,000 one of one of X on a 7160, you could just reward one creator or one collector and just add something to their token if you want, or to everybody's. Like, there's no.
I will say,
like you would do with a metadata update.
Just to throw a yellow flag up there, for 7160, the way it's built in the lab, it's not quite meant for large editions. That's why Doppelganger's coming. So like managing 10,000 tokens on 7160 is quite the lofty task within the lab.
But it's coming.
It's coming. These are coming. All right.
Yeah, do you want to talk on this one? I think you're a little closer.
Yeah. This is the Everlasting Glitch Stopper by Visceral Glitch, with the Visceral Glitch. And this was actually released on Makerspace. And the concept behind it was similar to like a subscription token. If I buy this token now, you can see Walk Unafraid was the first creation. Every month, Visceral Glitch would add a new glitch piece to my token. So you can see like the next month. So I own the token for 1 month. The next month he added Glitch and Dumbo. The next month after that he added Pico Glitch. So I can expect, or the commitment he made, is that every month for the next 50 years he'll be adding new artworks. So each token would actually at the end have 600 artworks in it. And as Ben mentioned, there's no limit. I mean, it's a very high limit on the number of artwork creations that can be added to an origin token. Ben, is that limit like 1 trillion? Isn't it like a ridiculous number? That's not.
Yeah, it's really... you went 265 max, so it looks 256 max, so it looks like a. Yeah, it's this one, which ends up being, I think it's multiple trillions or 13 trillion or something.
So you can definitely add, 1,000 artworks to a token if you wanted to.
Yeah, and doing this allows people, like I said earlier, to get creations out into the hands of collectors, reward collectors on paying royalties, being just your collectors or whatever, without actually increasing your overall token supply. So in that regards, it's really fascinating when you compare it to airdrops, where you're actually making new tokens.
Right. So you get to keep your collector's wallets clean as well with this, basically.
Yeah. So it's got both like artistic and relationship use cases, and then practical use cases like new aspect ratios or different pinning services and stuff like that.
Yeah.
No, there's no mint fee. It's purely gas. So less than a penny.
So the next example I want to talk about was Invisible Alchemy by Botto. So if you're not familiar with Botto, they're kind of this AI artist slash DAO. And they have a system where they vote for the artwork that will be minted for that week and then auctioned on Super Rare. And so there's thousands of artworks that have been discarded. And so, Botto wanted to do an experiment called Invisible Alchemy, where they would take 12 of these discarded pieces, one from every week, and fill it up. So this is the first 7160 piece they did, but you can see there's like 3 artworks out of the 12 here. So all 3 of these are by Botto, and they exist within the same 7160 origin token. So it's just a fun experiment that they did. Another one, Seeds by Patrick Ortman. This was also a release on Makerspace, similar to the Visceral Glitch. This concept was really cool just because it was inspired by nature. And so essentially, you can go collect a 1-of-1 seed. So this would be the piece on the left here, or my left, the one that's fully bloomed. It's inspired by nature and seeds blossoming. So like the next stage will be it sprouting, and then the next stage that he reveals in a couple weeks will be it blossoming. So like over a period of 3 weeks, he's releasing 2 new artworks to this token, keeping his collectors engaged, having something to talk about on the marketing front instead of sharing the same artwork over and over again, for example. So there are a few cool things going on with this drop. And that is all our examples, all of our examples. We did our artist POV, we did our collector POV. The use cases for multi-creation tokens are unlimited, and we'd love to know and see new use cases come out of this. We mentioned a few that we've seen and have already done, but there's new ones, new creators coming out every day with different ideas of how they can use 7160 to push their art forward. So we would love to hear from you if you have any ideas. I know Rebecca already mentioned one with 3 aspect ratios that she wants to do as a limited edition 7160.
If you want to go to OpenSea really quick.
OpenSea.
And then just paste this contract address in there.
I'm not sharing the screen. Hold on. I can't copy this message, can I? Oh, I can't copy it through here.
You can't?
No.
How shitty. Just go to OpenSea. I know their search algorithm's atrocious, so I was going to answer David's question with a visual. But essentially, like I said, with these tokens are 7160 is a 721 under the hood with extra functions, extra functionality that
I pulled up. Sorry. I pulled up Everlasting Glitch Stopper. And so
yeah, that's fine. It's fine. So it'll show the current pin metadata. So if I pin creation number 3, like Pika Glitch is obviously different than the rest. All of these tokens you see still contain all of the artwork, but someone pinned theirs to Pika Glitch. Some have left theirs on Walk Unafraid. OpenSea, Super Rare, Foundation, Manifold, they're all going to just display it as a 721, just looking at the existing metadata. So from a contract level, you have your 721 and you have your metadata slot. And with the 7160, it's the same thing. You have your 7160 contract with that one metadata slot, but then there's another function under here that stores all of the possible creations. So when you go to pin it, all it's doing is just pulling down the existing metadata and putting a new one in that slot. So the marketplaces just read them as 721s. We're working with marketplaces, and I think as 7160 becomes more widespread, it's going to behoove them to pull in those creations on their front end because it's all on chain. So you can see them in the contract. It's just a matter of OpenSea or Super Rare actually making a quick little grid UI element where you can see and pin new creations. So nothing's broken. It acts the same. You just would prefer to look at them in the Transient Labs marketplaces so that you get full access to all the features. You can also change it on Etherscan if you're Etherscan privy. So
Yeah,
not
we have
as
support
fun.
articles. We have
Yeah, not
support
as,
articles on both of those on how to
not
do it
as
Ether.
sexy, I don't think. But
You'd be surprised. Like OXDGB's cameras, all but one, so 69 out of 70 people went through Etherscan to interact with their token and pick
yeah,
their
this is
favorite.
before we had a nice UI for it. But now with our UI, you can see them all in one place. You can preview them. You can see the images, see the metadata. On Etherscan, it just shows you just an Arweave link. It's just an array of Arweave links. All right.
Ant Woman has a question here. And so you can't change the metadata of anything within a 7160 token, including the original artwork. What you can do is you add in a new version, which is the updated, and it preserves the old version as well.
Yeah, so it's just like preserves all revision history on that token. What was the other question she asked? Video is supported. Yeah. They're multi-metadata tokens, multimedia type tokens, meaning the same token could have one image, could have one video, could have one GIF, one GLB, one HTML, one TIFF. It doesn't matter. You can mix and match any aspect ratio, any size, minus or under 300 megabytes. They can all have different titles, attributes. Just think of them as a metadata update that you would do on Manifold, but it's more like a metadata add instead of an update. So you're adding the metadata. If the token's not pinned, meaning the creator or the collector hasn't gone in and actually physically pinned one of the creations on the blockchain, every time you add a new piece, the token will automatically update to the most recent version. So it still acts like the metadata updates that a lot of us are familiar with, except you just always preserve everything that token's been through. Yeah, so that's it's a lot, but just think of it as a folder versus a file. It's a one of one folder, whereas 721s are a one of one file. For my own personal preferences, I'll probably never mint on a 721 again. Even if I don't plan to add multiple creations to a one of one token, I'm still going to use a 7160, because if you just mint the origin token and that's all you do is just keep one creation in that token, it literally is a 721. It's not until you add that second creation that you unlock all of the 7160 functionality. So just using a 7160 from here on out gives me future proof. If I ever feel like adding something, I can, or rewarding a collector, or maybe I don't know, maybe I become really good friends with one of the collectors down the road, or they do something amazing. I'm like, I just want to pay them back somehow. I can add something. Or if I'm a 3D artist and better rendering software comes out, I can add a new and improved version of the original artwork to their token. Or if the link goes down, I can add an unbroken version that is maybe stored in a different decentralized storage solution. So there's might as well always use 7160, but that's my take.
I agree. Lucinda had a question about how these can be promoted via Farcaster. I'm not
how
really
they can be what?
Promoted through Farcaster, for example. I would assume the same way.
Yeah, that's the same. It's the same as a regular token. And we're working on some cool frames where you go to that token page that I showed you guys earlier, which I'm just going to show again, just in case there's some newcomers. Can you let me back up on stage here?
Yep. You're on stage. You're sharing your screen.
I can go to, that's the lab. So I can go to my token page in transient.xyz. You can see all these creations here. We're working on a really cool share link for Farcaster specifically, or Warpcast, where I would copy this URL, and when I paste it in here, it's going to be this link, obviously, but it would render a frame that shows the current work, but then lets people actually click left and right to see what other creations are in the token. And then if you actually own the token, you'd be able to pin it from Warpcast. Like you'll have a pin button. So you could actually do this all from a Warpcast frame. So that's some pretty cool stuff in the works.
Yeah. I have one last example that I think would be cool to share as well. So this was actually by Trevor Jones, and he did this in addition to his actual kind of main release, the Archangel collection. And so you can see he has 21 of these on his creator page within transient.xyz, or what we call Launchpad. So if I click on one of these, I have the old version. You have the new version.
Yeah, you guys are looking at you were looking at a Vercel deployment that hasn't hit product yet, but it's coming. We've done a ton of UX improvements in the lab, so Daniel's going to show you the old and slow version that doesn't work well all the time.
Yeah, maybe this wasn't the best idea, but basically the way Trevor Jones used it is for each Archangel 1 of 1, he created a 7160 token that he airdropped to the appropriate collector. And then within it, he added, a cropped PFP version of the Archangel, an MP4 and an animation, and then a GLB file that the collector can use for kind of whatever purposes they have. And so that didn't really load as quick as it should have. But yes, I just wanted to outline that you can use this in addition to releases to provide like supplemental assets or files for your collectors.
Yeah. And for 7160, story inscription still applies. You can inscribe token inscriptions just like you can on anything. It's 1155, 721s. So yeah, there's just trying to really open up the doors for what's possible with NFTs, far beyond just them being a vehicle to get the artwork on the blockchain. We think you could create with the blockchain. It's part of the creation process. Let's see here. You created a 7160, 15 creations.
It sounds, the way I read that is he had 15. Ernesto, did you draft 15 origin tokens and then added them to a stack? Because if that's what you did, then yes, like each of those gets minted and you're able to add artwork creations to each token individually.
Yeah, we've had a few people do drops like that. So you'd make, whether it's a placeholder and they're all the same, like we did with Roger Dickerman on his stacks mint page, or whether it's like what Daniel just showed, where each piece is different, each token is different, like a true 1 of 1 of X. You could run a mint page, aka stacks, on that. And then once your collection is minted or partially minted and you close it or whatever, yeah, you can start adding all those extra creations into the tokens. So sweet.
I shared the wrong link here. Whoops.
Yeah, each one is different. So you would draft 7160s. The multi-creation part doesn't get unlocked until the token's minted. That's just how the contract works. If you guys remember the walkthrough I did earlier, I had to mint an origin token first. Then once I minted that, I unlocked the multi-creations array. So when you do it through a mint page, you just do it as a standard 721 drop. You create all origin token artworks and then just treat it like a 721. Run the mint. Once the mint's over, then you can start adding as many creations as you want to each token. All right, we're doing our best here to keep the learning curve low, but it's just something you got to spend time with. You're going to see your peers and fellow artists start to use it, and I think it'll become more obvious. And I've seen it, the light bulb go off in so many artists' eyes when they start to think about all the cool things you can do with multi-creation tokens like this. And we'll be doing some more activations coming up here. A big one with the editions version of this. So the 7160 is a 1 of 1 of X. And then the doppelganger, which we're not going to call it that in the lab, but the editions version is an 1155, except the entire collection has an array that you can point to change metadata. So we'll be doing a really cool thing with Patrick Amidon and a bunch of people that is around collaborative mints. So multiple artists on a single mint. I think that's it though.
Yeah, I think we covered it all.
Yeah, we have articles written if you want to kind of keep brainstorming on how to use these. You can ask ChatGPT to kind of brainstorm with you. It's a fun thing to do. So you can always go to ChatGPT and be like, look up Transient Labs ERC-7160. And then once it's looked that up, or you can just ask it about it, just brainstorm with GPT and it'll kind of give you a bunch of cool use cases that may be specific to what you're looking to do. That's always a fun way to kind of dream up what's possible given everything we're building. I think we're actually training an AI agent on everything transient that will kind of be a sounding board for artists. So you'll be able to jump into this transient built GPT that knows everything about transient and will help come up with all kinds of really cool ideas. But in the meantime, GPT works just fine.
Yeah, I also wanted to add, if GPT isn't as helpful as you'd like it to be, like we're always here to help, whether that's me or Merv from the Transient team. Like we're here to be a soundboard for you and work with you on your ideas, help you through the lab, and kind of guide you through the learning curve process. Additionally, we're going to send an email with the presentation, kind of like in a PDF version. So you can always have that. And then an invitation to our next webinar, which is on Trace on August 12th.
Oh, you can't link stuff in here.
Yeah. Oh, no.
And then no one can copy it either, right? Yeah, that's so silly. All right. Well, if you Google 7160 NFTs with multiple metadata, there's a good Medium article I wrote about it. But all right. I think that's it.
All right. Thanks for joining, everyone. It's a pleasure. See you next time.
See you guys.